Hey there, my name is Adorian Deck and you guys convinced me to get off of my butt and do a Draw My Life video. So let's go. My life basically sucked until I was about 11 when a large man busted through my door and told me I was a wizard. I was like, girl, don't you be playing with me. Yeah, that wasn't my life. My mom in the early 90s moved to Palm Springs, California, which is a desert city where she had lived previously and never intended on going back to. She also never intended to get back into her real estate career, but she did. Her boss wanted to pair her with another agent, a man, and my mom denied the offer, explaining the man was too cute and would be a distraction. Her boss told my mom that this man and her would be married in 6 months from now with a child cooking. She also denied that, but apparently her boss knew them both well because that statement became true. My parents were very excited for their newborn Christopher to arrive. While my dad was meditating one day, the name Adorian popped clear into his head from out of nowhere. So they decided to make Christopher my middle name because he liked the name Adorian much better. This answers my most frequently asked question, where did your name come from? 23 days after my due date, on May 22nd, 1993, I was born! Hip hip hooray! Woohoo! Yeah, okay, next. 15 months later, my brother Adrian was born! Yay, brothers! Woo! Wait, Adorian and Adrian? Yeah, I still don't know why our parents made our names so close. It's caused mistakes growing up in doctor's offices, getting called into the principal's office, etc. It was always my brother getting into trouble and they would accidentally call me. My brother was always the outgoing and fun troublemaker while I was a very quiet to myself, innocent little boy. When I was 3, my parents decided Palm Springs wasn't a good place to raise children, so we moved to a small town called Arnold in Northern California. My brother and I had the most wonderful childhood here, with a lot of time spent outside on adventures through the forests, or with our mom inside cozy by the fire, that kind of stuff. We'd always anxiously await for our dad to come home from work, a lot of those nights in blizzard conditions. He would get home and we'd spend time as a family and eat delicious food. I couldn't have asked for a more heartwarming childhood. My mom grew up only wanting to be a mom. My brother and I have been very treasured our entire lives, and I'm very grateful for that. While living in Arnold, my dad started his own real estate company called Mountain Home Realty, perfectly placed when you first enter town. It was very successful and he always won the award for having the most Christmas lights every year. I was the cute little son that sat at the front desk messing with papers when somebody walked in, the hook for the customers, what made them go, aww, until my dad came in and swooned them into buying a house. I guess we'll go with that. In the 3rd grade, my grandma passed away, so my dad closed up his real estate company to take care of my grandpa. Back to Palm Springs we went. Before leaving the mountains, my dad hurt his back while moving firewood, and he became addicted to the pain medication he was taking, and shortly after that, alcohol. He couldn't even take care of my grandpa because of these addictions, and very quickly the wonderful childhood spiraled. We became poor pretty quickly after so much success in my dad's real estate company, and I remember having to leave school for a couple of weeks with my mom and brother to a getaway shelter away from my dad. The shelter was for wives and children getting away from abusive dads, but my dad wasn't abusive at all, so my mom decided that that wasn't the place for us. One night, while my dad was drinking at a buddy's house down the street, she stole his car with my brother and I and drove us to Los Angeles where we had other family, which is only 2 hours away. We lived in another small shelter, very poor, where we didn't fit in and I didn't see my dad for a few months. The only good thing we had at this time in our lives was our Game Boy and Pokemon. It was our happy getaway, but my brother and I always fought over who could play with the Game Boy. So my mom pawned her wedding ring for $25 to buy us another Game Boy from a used game store. Remember that part about being treasured? My heart still stings to this day every time I tell that story. It was so important to my mom to make sure that my brother and I were as happy as possible during this really hard time. My dad was sobering up, so he came back into my life. We were still very poor and living in a shitty motel in a bad part of Los Angeles. I watched a gang steal everything from one of the other motel rooms one night. We couldn't pay the cheap rent from this motel, so we were kicked onto the street with all of our stuff sitting outside of the motel. The man across from us saw us and offered us a super beat up car he had for free. A literal miracle. No joke. The man, same day, was raided for some crazy offense I was never told about because I was too young. We asked the police officials if the car he gave us was stolen, and they cleared it and said it was ours. So we ditched that place for Lake Arrowhead, California, the mountains right outside of Los Angeles. We only spent 5 months in Lake Arrowhead. We were still really poor, but at this time my dad was sober and we were building a happy family again. A couple days before New Year's 2004, my dad got a call saying his father had passed away. The one we moved back to Palm Springs for in the first place. We moved back to Palm Springs for a 3rd time on New Year's Eve We inherited everything he had, so we became wealthy overnight. This part of my life was where I went out for steak dinners every night, lived in a nice house, and we owned a lot of expensive things like 4 cars. Back in Palm Springs for middle school, I was bullied a lot. I didn't have any friends. I was nervous I was going to get beaten up every day. I was a quiet, unsociable person. I always tried to sit with people from my classes at lunch, but I was never accepted there. After selling the house we inherited, we moved to Portland, Oregon. I had a lot more friends here, finished middle school, and had a great 2 years up there. I still visit my old friends about every 6 months. In Oregon is where I actually discovered YouTube. I was 13 years old and my life had changed forever at that point. Took a lot of really bad videos to do it, but my outer shyness started to go away. My personality was coming out on the internet, a place that I could be myself with no fear of embarrassment or shyness. After 2 years of making videos, I went to my first YouTube gathering. It was the summer of 2008, right before I left Oregon, and I still see some of those friends that I made today. After a year into high school, I moved again, back to another Northern California mountain town. A little bigger this time, just outside of Sacramento. This is where YouTube really came into play for me. I had a few close friends throughout my time in high school, but I didn't participate in much or see people outside of class very often, being the new kid again. I was busy on the computer making videos and bonding with my YouTube friends I had been making. One day, my dad told my mom that we had no money. He spent it all over a couple of years, and I've learned how to save money well from my dad's mistakes. We were running out of hope again, but I actually turned to YouTube and made a video asking for donations to help my family. And I was 15 and didn't know what else to do. The video got 100,000 views in 2 days, which is a lot for 2008. I've never experienced more hate than that in my life. But there were good people in the bunch that I will always remember that helped us enough to move into a small apartment in town. I thank all of those people today, and I'm gonna pay it forward. Less than a year later, as a fun side project, I created a Twitter account called OMG Facts. The Twitter account blew up and today has 5.5 million followers. I was at my highest viewership on YouTube at this point as well, and was having a lot of fun on the internet. But meanwhile, in my home life, my dad became addicted to alcohol again, and we had some of the hardest times. My brother and I now were old enough to understand and help support our mom. There was so much yelling and sadness in our lives. It got so far low that my mom kicked him out. I was fatherless for another few months. YouTube was my happy getaway from all of this. He went to a place where alcohol addicts went to. One day I was receiving an award for a school project at the local movie theater in town, and as I was walking off of stage, I see my dad near the front row for the first time in 3 months cheering me on. I didn't know how to react, I didn't know who told him that this was happening, and it scared me a little bit. At this point, he had been sober for 3 months and actually moved into his own house in town. For the next year after that, he lived in his own house and started visiting my home often. It was confusing because my parents were still married, but so much trust had been broken that would never be fixed. On April 11th, 2011, my dad passed away after a heart attack. 36 hours later, on April 12th, 2011, I found my dad on his bed. The details about this will stay with me, but this moment will haunt me for the rest of my life. My heart was broken into many pieces. There were so many things happening in my life at once at that point. I was turning 18 the next month, along with my prom, and the month after that I was graduating high school. That moment was the end of something and the start of something else. It was totally unexpected and I had to grow up fast. I'm proud to say that my dad was sober for the last 15 months of his life. I didn't think it would happen. He was one of those embarrassingly proud dads. He supported me so much in anything I did. I still can't believe how lucky I am to have had him as a dad. He's with me every day in my heart. When you work out muscles in your body, they break down at first and then become stronger than before. That's how bodybuilders get so big. I took spring break that year to figure out what was going on in my life, but after that, I got back up on my feet. I had an amazing finish to high school, continued to make YouTube videos, and stayed strong. My emotional muscles rebuilt, and I was stronger than ever. I want you to know that bad things happen. Well, you already know that. You're all going to have traumatic experiences in your life, if you haven't already. But take a second to imagine life without the lows. Without the lows, we wouldn't be able to grow stronger and be better people. It also makes the happy things in life so much better. We're born to go through these things. These experiences are how I've become the strong individual that I am now. And I've got a lot more strength to build from here too. I live in Los Angeles now and I'm in control of my life and I'm very happy with how it's going. It wasn't always like this and it probably won't always be this way. But I want you to take something very important from this video. I want you to stay strong and make your way through your struggles that are going on in your life right now. because there's a light to the end of that tunnel. I promise. I want to thank you guys once again so much for your support. You've gotten me through a lot now, as you know. You really make me happy and feel like I have meaning by attempting to return what you've done for me as much as possible. You deserve a happy and strong life, and I love you. And thank you for putting up with my hideous drawing. I'm just not a drawer. I mean, look at those stars. I don't know. But yeah. All right. I'll see you guys again soon.